All right, so we are here with Mariya today, who started with me back in February. And obviously, multiple reasons, which we'll find out today, of why she decided to join, what was the motivation. Of course, hearing more about her story as a mom, as someone who was kind of lost in her ways in terms of the training side of things, not sure exactly where to start. But rather than me telling you that, we're gonna hear from her. So welcome, Mariya.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Really, really happy that we can make this happen as well. Especially, like you said, you're back at work at the moment, two little boys, and obviously keeping you very, very busy. But I really want to take this opportunity just to hear your story. This is about you. This is just about everything that you've gone through, because it's been obviously an absolute honor just working with you as well, and just understanding myself of just the responsibilities you have. And this is a really great way for you. And the reason I wanted to do this is because I know you just inspire so many mothers out there. And because you're just an absolute powerhouse of just making things happen. I've seen a huge transformation, not just physically, but also mentally as well. So I really want to just dive deep of the thoughts, the processes, how you navigated certain obstacles, and just kind of going about it that way, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sounds good. Hit me.
So just give me an idea of what life looked like before the whole coaching side of things. I mean, what were you doing? What were you feeling day to day? What was it like before you started the whole coaching side of things?
Life was pretty sedentary, I think. I mean, it wasn't sedentary because obviously I had two kids that I was running around with, but I don't feel like I was ever doing anything for myself to actually improve my lifestyle in any way. I was totally in a rut with just like bare minimal survival. And I know like a lot of mothers will feel like that, especially in the early days, because I think we started working together when Moise was only like 3 or 4 months old. But generally, like diet was awful, to be honest. Like I used to have like tea and like a biscuit for breakfast, sometimes 2 biscuits. And I don't know, like I had this thing where I would try and go out for a walk every day, and I wouldn't always do it because if it was raining or it was too hard to leave the house sometimes. So I could tell that I was just in a rut, and I didn't really know how to get out of it.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like a lot, especially like you said, it wasn't that you were sedentary, it's just that you had so many things going on, but you were trying to do the kind of the bare minimum of what you thought was right. So when was it? Because again, there's so much information out there. When did you realize or come to go, something needs to change and I actually need someone else to help me with this? When was that? Was there a specific moment? Was it a moment where I was like, that's it? Or was it something that you thought about for a while?
A bit of both, I think. I think I used to think it for quite a while. And because even like during my pregnancy, I was getting big, but it wasn't just like pregnancy big. I could tell that the weight that I was putting on wasn't fully pregnancy. I could tell it was something else, because some people who are pregnant just look beautiful and just got a little belly and it's really cute, but mine wasn't like that. I think I was growing sort of like everywhere, and like my lifestyle wasn't great during pregnancy either, so I'm sure that contributed. So there was like a little voice in my head all the time being like, well, yeah, after I deliver this baby, like I'm going to try and focus, because in between the 2 kids I didn't really do much, and it just got worse and worse. A lot of it was also just denial, I think, because I could hear the voice, but I was also a bit like, oh, like I'm fine. I've got a lot on my plate. Like, one day I'll lose the weight naturally, and like it'll be fine. And then after Boys was born, when I would start, like when I wasn't living in joggers and t-shirts anymore, and I was actually getting ready to go out, and I realized that none of these clothes fit me. And if I was wearing some of my maternity clothes again, I just looked like I just hated the way I looked. So that happened quite a few times where it wasn't just an uncomfortable feeling. It was like, oh my God, like how is this what I look like? I felt like I was so far beyond the point of being able to just be okay with it, or just to carry on thinking one day things will change. I knew that I had to do something at that point.
Okay. Yeah, and it sounded like, especially when it came to our first conversation, it felt like you had kind of thought about it a little bit as well. Because again, I always find that whenever someone does jump on a call with myself, there's some level of like, should I do it now? Shall I not? Shall I do it? And then for the fact that you actually took that leap, it must have taken a lot of like that something needs to change. So it sounded like, and don't let me put words in your mouth, but you thought about it a fair bit, and obviously had the ups and downs to a point. It's going, something actually does need to change in that sense. So just give me an idea of what, other than the food side of things, other than the routine, other than obviously trying to do other things, what was it that you were actually struggling with? Do you feel that you need the most help with?
I think knowledge was the main thing, because I don't think now that I know it, it seems kind of simple. It's the discipline that's hard. But at the time, I just was overwhelmed by like what to do, and there were so many different things that I wanted to fix, and I wasn't sure how to go about doing them all. And I just was like, nah, like I can't do this on my own. Like I need some help. And it wasn't just I need help from a personal trainer. Like I need help from someone who actually sees the big picture, and is like able to just understand my life, everything, that's going on in the situation, and work with me,
No, definitely. And I still remember that day that we obviously had that conversation. It was touching because we hadn't spoken obviously in a very, very, very long time. And obviously we had a good catch up on that time. But it sounded to me like some of the things that you're struggling. I remember it was obviously the lower back. There was also the feet as well, because there was like a lot of plantar fasciitis that you were struggling with as well. So talk me through, like, was that something that you had for a while? Was it something that just kind of, because of pregnancy, that kind of came about?
No, these were like really, really long-standing issues that, I just used to shrug off. And just the harder that my life got, the more impactful those problems were becoming. They weren't just a little nickel anymore. It was actually like a big nuisance. So the plantar fasciitis in my feet, that was getting progressively worse, to the point that I could only wear Skechers. Those were the only shoes that I could wear. So I was completely like, I was just trapped, I think, in that. And I felt pathetic, to be honest, because how could I be like a 30-year-old new mum and not able to go for a walk without my feet hurting in anything other than old Skechers? And then like the whole back pain, that again, shoulder pain, all of that, that's all been, when I think about it, I think that was happening from like when I was in my early 20s, to be honest. Like that was an imbalance thing, but it wasn't a nuisance enough for me to do anything about it. Whereas this time I was like, if I'm gonna fix this one weight thing, I want to fix everything, because it's all linked, like this whole, like this bad lifestyle that I was living contributed to all three of those things.
Yeah, I mean, especially the fact that it was just what you're doing on a daily basis. Of course it had that impact, but as a mom, like you don't get a chance to just rest the feet, which is obviously what people suggest, going, hey, you just need to rest, but you're constantly on the go. So how did it impact that, like being a mom and having lower back issues, and the fact that you are on your feet? And I don't think people realize this is very, like, how painful plantar fasciitis actually is, and you have to move around.
Yeah,
how did it impact you there?
I mean, to be fair, with the plantar fasciitis, I feel like I was able to just like stick my old plaster on it. So I would wear like big chunky slippers around the house, and I would only wear Skechers, and I was able to just survive day to day with, and I would get through. But one of the main things that I really hated is that I couldn't use baby carriers. And like there were so many like opportunities where I wanted to use a carrier, and I did, but it would always come with like that pain. There were like these really great like mother and big dance classes, which were so popular and I really enjoyed, but like the enjoyment kind of got sucked out of that class because I was in pain. And it wasn't the carrier or the fitting or whatever, it was me. But I was that limiting factor. And yeah, like it, and even not even baby carriers, even before that, like wearing big rucksacks, even in the winter time, like I would hate winter partially because I'd be wearing a big thick coat and a scarf, and all of those things would just contribute to pain. And like, just like I said, I just felt a bit pathetic.
Bless you. But again, you don't realize from the years, especially like being in your 30s, that all the stuff that we were doing prior to it. And of course, because I work with a lot of moms as well, I've come to realize just the impact that, holding a baby does have on the body as well. And not just when you think about the midsection, the legs, all that side of things. And of course, after that, of wanting to be able to do all those things as well. So no, I appreciate you sharing that. So one of the things is, of course, I was very grateful that you reached out. And obviously we started getting things going. I did mention something about breath work and how that might be something that might be helpful. And I wasn't sure, and I don't think we spoke about this, what was your first thoughts of when I mentioned breath work and what it might be able to help you with? And of course, we'll go on about that one session that we did in particular, because again, you probably didn't think when I'm going to Dash for to help me with fitness, that I would actually bring up things like breath work into this and how it kind of fits in with everything that you do on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, what was your thoughts when I first mentioned about breath work? Had you heard anything much about it before, or is it something that you might have tried in the past? And of course, we'll go on to that one session that we did in particular.
I think I was really happy when you mentioned breath work, although my understanding at the time was that it was just meditation, whereas I know breath work and meditation are two separate things, but I associated them together at the time. But in general, I think I was quite happy to hear you mention that, because it kind of cemented that I'd made the right decision in like sort of choosing you, because it's just the holistic picture, right? It's your whole lifestyle is what contributes to, you feeling in a rut. So yeah, like I was really excited to see what this was going to bring.
Yes.
Meditation a few times before, and again, it's just the discipline, and I think that's the main thing that has changed for me, just the discipline, not only with food but exercise, meditation, everything, just your mindset.
Really, really happy to hear that as well. And I always do mention that, people usually know what to do. It's the fact that we get bombarded with so much stress in the world, and we kind of get drawn from left, right to center. And usually we have to kind of have something to actually just bring us back to earth, bring us back to a baseline. So I'm really curious. I know we spoke about it briefly, but of course I'd love for you to share. What was it? And it might be because obviously it was a while ago that we did this, but what was it that first experience that you had with breath work, the initial moment where you go, this is different? And of course, when we came out of the breath work, of exactly what you're feeling.
Yeah, it was I don't want to sound really corny, but it was really, really amazing. And I think I had a certain level of expectation of what I would feel from it, but when we actually did it, I was completely taken aback by like the rush of energy, I think, in my body. And I didn't actually feel it until right at the end. And I remember at the end of our session, like you said, to just open your eyes when you feel ready. And I took a really long time, because I was just like savoring that moment of like how I felt. And yeah, like I think previous me would have listened to me saying this and been like, oh, like whatever, okay, it all sounds so flowery and just in with the clouds. But it really honestly was an amazing experience to have that with you.
Amazing. No, really, really happy to hear. And what I always like to share about is that no breath work is ever the same. No matter how many times you do it, it's never like, oh, it was like last time. It's always a different experience depending on what the body and what the mind is after as well. So I'm glad I got to take you through that, especially at the start, because it kind of just sets the foundation. And just give me an idea as well, because obviously we did kind of adjust things as the journey went on, based on schedule, expectations, based on a busy mom lifestyle as well? What was it that you you kind of I won't say struggled with, but what was the obstacles that you found initially at the start trying to train? Because obviously we were training from home, and you brought all the equipment in terms of like kettlebells, a few bands, and all that side of things. What was it at the kind of the early stages of training from home, and anything that you might have struggled with?
I think it was just getting into that routine and trying to carve out time, because being on mat leave with a newborn, I don't know, I feel like I hadn't really got into the groove of a routine, or I thought I had, and then obviously like something changed, and it's always like you find yourself, you feel like you got everything together, and then something changes, right? And then you're constantly having to jump the hurdles, as it were. So I think it was that, just trying to get into a groove and balance things. So before, I would only ever train during Moises' nap time. But then if he was going through regression, he wouldn't nap the way he used to nap before. So then it would just set things off in haywire. And, I really struggled to just find that time in the day. So then that's when we switched to, I think, just doing it first thing in the morning while everyone is asleep. And that was, I just loved doing that. It was hard getting up in the morning because I was already sleep deprived, but just having that like peace and quiet, and that quality like me time in the morning, just to like make sure that I've got this and I've prioritized myself before the chaos of the day hits. It was a really valuable like time.
That's amazing. That's especially because I'm sure you're going to have a lot of conversations with moms going, I just don't have the time to be able to do this. And what is it that you can say? Because again, you had two boys, and again, you had that sleep deprivation. You also had Moise that you'd have to look after more so as well. But the fact that I remember still getting this message, you going, oh my God, like I'm a morning person, and you're getting it done. And that's how much of just setting an intention for the day that you got that done first, and then you can just kind of let the day unfold as expected, but knowing that you looked after you initially. Is there anything that you feel like a lot of moms will be like, yeah, but it's not me? Do you feel like there's anything that you can go, hey, no, it is possible?
Yeah, I mean, I have moments from a morning person, but I don't think I've fully got it on lockdown. And I don't think you can, because like life is ever evolving, and it is hard to get that quality sleep when you've got young kids. But I think the biggest thing is just being kind to yourself and trying to always just be adaptable. So I think there were times when I was like, gosh, like life is like getting too crazy, and we switched things up and we just did like 5-minute daily workouts, because I wanted to maintain that discipline and consistency. I didn't want to lose that. But like finding 5 minutes in the day, like everyone can do that. So I think it's just that, just being adaptable and like being realistic of what's in your control, and what's in your control.
No, it makes sense. And yes, I remember that moment where we did switch things across just smaller workouts, which a lot of people go, oh, it's only like 5 minutes. But I remember them being quite, one, challenging, but also realistic based on your goals. And what I love the most is that we weren't just addressing, hey, you're just doing strength training. Of course, we were addressing the lower back, we were addressing the plantar fasciitis, we were addressing other mobility side of things as well, which you managed to fit in the week as well. But yeah, I mean, from that, we adjusted from like 20-minute sessions to 5 minutes, and then obviously brought things back up as well. And was there any moments where you felt like this was just too much? Like you want the moments where you felt like giving up at all?
Yeah. There were definitely times, like stressful life events, where I was just like, hey, like sometimes even the 5 minutes just felt a bit like, because I didn't really feel like I had even the mental bandwidth to like, just to do that. And we would speak sometimes, and you were like always really supportive in the sense of like, hey, just be kind to yourself. let this little moment pass, and we're gonna go again, and you just keep up the momentum. So I think that's the main thing. Like, there's no perfect journey where you stay consistent the whole way through. It's a constant like up down situation, but as long as you get back up, that's the most important thing, right?
That's it. I think we forget, we always think things have to be very linear, but understanding that we do have the peaks and troughs. So I'm glad you're aware of that. Was that what helped you get you through? Was there anything that you had to kind of remind yourself of as well? Because of course, that's what a coach is quite handy, is that we can have that conversation. But of course, we'd have touch points, right? But what helped you in those moments where you're going, this is hard, and I don't know how I'm going to get through this? Or yeah, what do you have to remind yourself at those moments? And what do you think, like if you look back at things, what kept you going?
I think the progress that I've made so far, and that I didn't want to basically just reverse everything or fall into that like cycle, because there were moments where if I didn't have that grounding, I could see that it would be so easy to just fall into that trap of, oh yeah, like I'll just do it in next week, or like, today food's out the window, so whatever. But I think it was just important to remind myself that I'd come so far and I'd made such good progress. And even with like just tiny micro habits and changing them, like, look how much I've achieved already. So the tiniest things can make the difference, as long as you're, consistent with it as much as you can.
Yeah. And what's even more amazing, especially coming from like an Asian family, you can imagine where we share love, where we have events, is always good food, right? And it can be quite challenging, especially when someone's on their journey. And I remember we had some times as well where, of course, like we had events coming up, and or obviously getaways and like obviously social events and all that side of things. How did you navigate around that? What was your, I mean, obviously we spoke about it, but I want to hear it from yourself. Was it quite hard to relay some of the information onto other people that obviously like family wise, and what you thought would happen versus what actually did happen?
I think I used to stress out about it a little bit quite at the beginning, and I was always very conscious of me coming across as rude in certain family situations. But I was quite lucky. I think most people were very understanding, and like accommodating, and there was no like pressure or force really, with people who knew kind of what journey and what I was on, and they were supportive of that. Obviously, you did get a few comments like, "Oh, what's the need? You're fine." But generally, it was. I was like, I'm not going to say no to everything. I'll just have a little bit, and that was fine. And I think also just planning ahead for the week. So if I knew that I was going to have like a big event on Saturday, then I would make sure that the rest of the week I'm kind of like changing things and making sure that over the entire week period, I'm still going to kind of stay within my goals. Obviously, there were times where things were unpredictable too, but that's just life, right? And then the next day, then I would accommodate instead. So yeah.
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense. And especially when it comes to the food choices, I do find there's a lot of information out there. And then, of course, the strategy that we went for, from the teas and biscuits in the morning, you made a big switch in your food. And of course, that's the beauty of the app, because I can see the food that you're going for. And you can probably hear when I was probably sending you messages, or every time we had a call, was protein, protein, protein. What was it about that? Because obviously, not only did you know that, you started obviously relaying that onto other people. What was it about the increase in protein which you go, oh my God, this actually works?
Just seeing that the way that having more protein actually made me feel, because before, I forgot to mention this before, but I was just such a carb girly. Like, all I ate was carbs on carbs on carbs. And a lot of times I would feel like run down, lazy and fatigued, and like I would be snacking because I was still hungry. So I could see that like the benefit that protein was having in making me full, and I knew it was good for me. It was good fuel, and yeah, I became that person who was just always like, yeah, but where's the protein in here? And just make now, just stick out a little bit. The way I used to annoy everyone around me, be like, if you say protein one more time.
Yeah, I know the feeling, but it's true. What's also amazing is the fact that, of course, in that space of time of we were working together, you dropped over 13 kilos. And not only do we see obviously the physical transformation, but we can't kind of stress the fact that you look completely different. And something I want to mention is the fact that I remember those moments when I used to obviously send me those messages going, hey, like, obviously you had social events, you felt good. And of course, I'm not saying everything, but those moments where you saw pictures of yourself. Just talk me through, what is it where those moments where you saw that picture of yourself and go, oh my God, that's me. And because again, that's what a beauty is, just tracking all our messages, that we can look back at initially how we used to speak versus an almost like a message of transformation. So yeah, let me hear it from you when you started to see those pictures of you changing basically.
Yeah, a lot of the pictures were like sort of candid pictures just from family events and things like that. And they'd get sent on the WhatsApp groups and I would flick through. And then sometimes, like, not to from anything, but I would see those pictures and I would do like a double take because I was like, oh, that's like that slim face, like that's me. And it kind of reminded me of how I looked like 10 years ago, like when I was in uni or like before then. And yeah, like sometimes I just didn't recognize myself because that transformation has happened in like a relatively short period of time where I haven't had that many pictures really documenting my life. So it was just amazing to kind of, for myself, it's obviously lovely when other people compliment you and say that, you look really good. But for me to kind of see that tangible, not pictures that I'm sending to you, but just other pictures that people have taken randomly, and I'm just like, oh, okay, that's that one is me actually.
That's amazing. And what did you notice, even not even just seeing the physical side of things? Of course, it's nice to get compliments from other people, but of course, the mirrors that you're seeing yourself, you were seeing yourself and going, okay, like, but there was a moment where you go like, oh my God, I still can't believe that's yourself. How did you notice your confidence change versus when you first started to where you are now?
I think the biggest thing is just taking pride in your appearance and just confidence with. I remember actually being really excited to take down this old bag of clothes from the loft, clothes that I'd stored away, thinking like, I'm probably never going to wear these, but I don't want to throw them away just yet, just in case I lose weight at some point, with no real plan to lose weight up until that point. But I remember being so excited, taking them down and trying them all on, and like, being so happy that those clothes fit, being so excited to rewear those clothes again that I loved, but just wasn't able to wear at the time. And yeah, just enjoying dressing up and enjoying making an effort for myself, because that's just a form of self-care, right? And I think where I was, or with like motherhood in general, we just forget about ourselves so much. So to have opportunities to do that and to feel good when you're doing it, because that's the worst thing, isn't it? When you have opportunities to dress up and you do dress up, but then you don't still feel good after that. That's just sad, I think.
No, I still remember you tell that message as well. You found all those clothes as well. So yeah, it was amazing to hear that. And it'd been a while, I feel like you said that you hadn't been able to fit in those clothes as well. So the fact that you made the right choice, that old you was going, hey, keep these because we're going to be able to fit in it, not knowing when, but hey, you made it happen. I guess one of the things I think I mentioned as well whilst we were working is that, the boys were there whilst you were training. Still, like, even the fact that it was never, sometimes you were never alone when you're training at home. They're one of them, you still have to manage them as well as train. And I do always find that, when it comes to children, they don't always do what you say, but they do as you do. And I remember seeing pictures of the boys are probably holding onto a kettlebell or something like that. What is it that you found that by you doing that is hoping you will obviously pass on to your boys, to your kids, and they're seeing their mom train? What is it that you feel like is important, that a message that you put on your give to your boys?
Yeah, I mean, the message is just to look after yourself, to take pride in yourself, to prioritize your health is huge. And I think I'd lost that for a very long time. So, and I think also them seeing discipline as well, because I think that's something that I've struggled with it, and I do still struggle with it. But seeing that I'm putting in that time and to be disciplined, and if I say I'm going to do something, that means I'm going to do it. So seeing that, I think, is a really important lesson, I think, to give to them.
No, amazing. Amazing. You just don't know how much of an impact they're just absorbing at that age, right? They're just kind of observing, looking. And I guess another thing I'd love to say is, like, if there was one thing that you'd like to kind of help moms in your similar situation to you, like, what would you think that would be? There would be one they're stuck with at the moment, and you feel like the small bit of advice that you've gone through and experienced yourself, what could they start off with? Like, whatever it may be, what is it that they could be doing to just help them get them on the right track?
I think one of the big things is just moving more, and like not everyone has access to like weights or knows how to train, but everyone knows how to go for a walk. And I think, yeah, just like if your baby needs to go for a nap, put them in the pram and just go for a walk, and you're fighting two birds with one stone there. So I think that's one of the biggest things. But obviously walking alone isn't going to do everything. And one of the other things I think is just making like one little micro change in your diet. So rather than reaching for a biscuit, like just find something quick and healthy and easy, just to get it in there. I think there's this I think misconception that weight loss takes like a massive overhaul, and sometimes it does, but it's all just micro habits and it's just little things. But yeah, just moving more, and in like hard moments, just making like one little micro change.
Yeah. And it's amazing to see those micro changes obviously compound over time, because initially when it started, it was just home workouts to a point. And we did speak about it. I was like, hey, the goal is to get you in the gym where you feel confident, where you feel like, hey, I actually belong here because I know what to do. And of course, you build up those little skill sets over time as well. But I still remember that moment of the excitement when you got into the gym, and it wasn't, I mean, initially I can imagine there's a lot of like anxiety going into the gym if you don't kind of know what you do. But I remember from yourself going, hey, I'm actually very excited. Do you think that you've had that same experience had you not started from home?
Never thought about that actually. Probably not. I think because I would have been too overwhelmed by everything. So starting at home, I think, was really good to get like core foundations in, and just to also just have that mindset kind of that I've been doing for so many months already. And then when I felt like I was ready to like bump up to the next level, it was like, okay, yeah, here I am. And a lot of those things, like we were doing kettlebell workouts, but a lot of those things are transferable, into other types of exercises. So yeah, it all like transitioned really well, I think.
Amazing. And I guess another thing that we mentioned is that I guess the shoes that you can start wearing now versus like when you had to stick to the sketches as well. I mean, I think it was something that the message you sent was like, I guess it all happened very gradually, that you just kind of forgot that was ever an issue as well. So how was that moment where you actually had to reflect back going, this was something that you always wanted?
Yeah, I never thought I'd get to that point, and I remember when we first started our first call, I've been reading about barefoot shoes for a long time, and I did buy a pair of barefoot shoes, and I just I couldn't wear them. It was just way too painful, obviously, and I had to return them. And I just thought wearing barefoot shoes is just unachievable for me, because like, I could only wear Skechers. Like they're on like polar opposite ends, aren't they? So I expected to go from Skechers and then like gradually go down to eventually maybe in the distant future be able to wear barefoot shoes. But what actually ended up happening is that I just tried. I put on some barefoot shoes one day and I walked the kids to the nursery and it was completely fine. And I was like, when did that happen? And I was so happy. And now these barefoot shoes are my daily shoes. I can do a whole day of walking in London and like I don't get any pain, and that to me is wild because that's all I've ever known. Like a day in London is like your feet are gonna be gone by the end of the day. So yeah, it's amazing. Like that's one of the, I think that's one of the proudest things for me is that, you know, I had this seemingly untangible goal and like I just did it without even realizing.
Like you said, there's little micro habits, right? Just you don't know how much it's actually contributing towards obviously that big goal of yours. Sometimes we want to try and kind of sort it down straight away, but it's never like that. We have to kind of use that axe and just chip at it every single day, right? No, amazing. And just the last few questions again is, if you did have a chance to speak to that younger self, obviously before starting, who was struggling, who was going through the motions mentally, wherever it was, if you had a chance to kind of go back and actually have a word with her right now and go, what would you actually say to her?
I think I'd probably tell her to just be honest with herself, stop living in denial, and ask for help. Because that was the biggest thing, like not knowing what to do was like the biggest barrier, which meant that I didn't even bother trying because I was like, I'm not going to waste all my time, right, doing like random workouts off the internet and, you know, not seeing any progress. So I think I probably had been there, you know, I'd probably been there, you know, not really putting the time and effort into it, admittedly, but I never saw results. So then I was just like, like not worth my time or effort.
Yeah, and I guess it's moments like that where we just don't know because you're in that mindset, right, of just kind of living at the moment. And I guess before the final two questions I want to give you, Mariya, is what now? Like, what is it that what's the goal now? Because obviously that big goal that you were going for was you managed to achieve them. What's the goal now? What is it that you want to look forward to? What is it that you want to look after for? Like, what do you want to be for your boys? And of course, your as a wife, as a daughter, all that side of things. What is it that you're working towards?
I think I still want to nail down the morning thing. It's still up and down, and I really that's something that I think I'm going to be like striving for a long time. Because that's just life, right? And I have faith that I'll get there because I know how much better I feel when that is me. And I think just because with being a morning person comes consistency and discipline, and then that has a ripple effect into I think all aspects of life. So for me, that's like a really big goal of mine that I'm, you know, constantly striving for. And I'm really happy in those phases of life where I do have it. And I think just showing my boys that like being healthy and disciplined are all like core values that you should kind of instill in yourself. And for them to find something that they love. That's you know, find something that they love that makes them be a healthier person.
I love that. I really do like that. It just makes things a lot easier as well because it's such an important aspect. It's like our health is a vehicle that we've been given to look after it, right? So one of the things I really want to get an idea of is right now you are who you are today. You've gone through everything. You're obviously still chipping away, which is understandable. We're all going through that. But what are you most proud of you today, what you've achieved, everything that you've done?
I think I am really, it's not just the weight loss, I think it's everything that came with it. And it was achieving it all in spite of everything else that I was going through whilst I was on this journey, and you know, just what I'm still going through in life. My life is like really unpredictable and chaotic, and that makes being disciplined, I think, like really hard sometimes. So the fact that I've had, you know, this time where I was disciplined enough to lose all that weight, to fix my plantar fasciitis, to work on my posture, the fact I was able to do all of that despite like all of like the hurdles that life was throwing at me, like I look back on it and I'm just like, I'm in awe of myself, to be honest, because I think it was hard and it required a lot of discipline, and I'm so proud that I can look at, you know, I can look at that and be like, you know, you've done it, and that means I can do it again in other aspects of life, you know, like I know I have it in me. So that's like a really quiet strength, I think, you know, to know that you can do that.
100%. I mean, you forget how much stress and organization requires, especially when it comes to moving house as well, which you also did during that as well, and all the other, you know, things that are coming your way, which is amazing. So yeah, really, really proud of you as well. Again, just to see how much you've changed, what I've observed, and again, the fact that I always try and put myself as much as I can in your shoes and just go, oh my God, look what you've achieved, considering, you know, a lot of people go, hey, I can't do this, but you're still showing up, you're still turning up, and you're still getting it done. So absolutely amazing to see your results, what you've achieved, and the fact that you're just, you know, and like you said, it isn't always like, okay, I've nailed this, so it's just gonna be smooth sailing. You're gonna be presented with obstacles. You're gonna be presented with things that are gonna be difficult, but yet, you know, there's always a way to kind of adjust and tweak things to kind of just keep things afloat, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
My final question for you, Mariya, is if you had a chance to, I won't say standing up on stage, but you've got all the moms who were in your place initially where they were struggling and kind of on the crossroad going, I really don't know what to do, but I know I need to do something. But you have a chance to go, because again, you're a mom, you understand as well that motherhood is hard. So what would you say to them where they go, I feel like I'm a bit of I won't say lost cause, but I'm just struggling. If you had a chance to speak to them right now.
Struggling with like weight or
Weight, identity, with, I guess, the fact, like you said, like, you know, when they do dress up and they have that chance to dress up, but still don't feel like it's possible, or feel like it's just all the stuff that they want to achieve is impossible because the fact that they're just so busy.
I think I would say, and it's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned, is prioritizing yourself isn't selfish. It's probably the best thing that you can do for yourself and also for your family. Whether that is literally just 5 minutes a day, but prioritizing yourself is going to make the biggest impact, I think. And that's where you find yourself again.
I love that. No, thank you so much. It's a great message, and you know, whoever's listening to this, I just know that, again, I mentioned right at the start, is like truly the reason I wanted to do this was your journey is genuinely inspiring, and no doubt that you just have that ability to probably change someone's life, to just kind of help them take that one first step.
I mean, that's what happened to me, right? I saw you working with another mum, and I was like, if she can do it, then I can do it as well, you know? And yeah, that's just testament, I think, to all, like we all have that in ourselves. We just got to find that strength.
And I'm glad you've proven that to yourself as well. So I appreciate your time, Mariya. It's been absolutely wonderful just hearing at your end, especially just, you know, rather than little micro bits, actually just hearing it as a whole, your story. And I know there was obviously certain areas that we didn't go straight into, but whatever the message is, I just know it's powerful from what I what we've heard today as well. So thank you for your time. Thank you for, again, just putting in the work, which I know is quite difficult during with all the obstacles, but you made it happen. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me and letting me share my story, and kind of like seeing it all like mapped out like this, and hearing me talk about it's like, yeah, it does make me really proud of myself.
Amazing. Thank you. And I'll speak